Hey, everybody, it's Eri from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and this is actually coming from Japan and the East Coast of the United States at the same time. We have Jesse Hynes with us. He is an attorney. He is someone who's been watching this SEC Ripple lawsuit unfold, and he's really paying attention to what's happening in the space. And because he does practice law, maybe not exactly in the same realm of securities laws, he does come with a perspective from a legal point of view. And so I think it's very valuable. And also we were really lucky today that Thinking Crypto, which is Tony's channel, he was able to have the former SEC official, Joseph Hynes. And Joseph really gave us, I think, some insight as to what possibly the SEC is thinking and some of that. And so I really am looking forward to having Jesse make some comments, because he also viewed the video. And I think there's a lot of takeaways, I'm sure, that will be valuable for us to hear. So Jesse, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us and to share your ideas and your thoughts and your thinking on this. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to see how this goes.
Well, you don't do too many videos, right?
No, I haven't in a while, and I'm not the most comfortable, but I'll be fine.
Okay. Well, I think that you just have to remember that I think people really appreciate the time that you're going to give on your point of view, because everybody is trying to still formulate their idea and their opinions, and because this is, I think, new for a lot of us. Like, I really wasn't even aware of an FOIA before this Freedom of Information Act. I don't know, have you ever used it before in your law practice?
I haven't specifically used it in my practice. I mean, we'll talk about the FOIA probably a little bit later. It's generally not something that you use in litigation. It's something that you use to get information from the government. You know, I have used it before. I generally fail. You know, I know a lot of people who try to get things like alien landings and UFOs and things like that. But you know, I haven't really used it that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that you know, so much of this was you know, kind of built into our system as kind of our rights, I guess I would say. Yeah. And that the information, if you pay the fee, and I guess they have, what, 20 days to respond. So I was seeing that. So if the letter went out on the 25th of January, I'm kind of counting on my calendar, they have to respond by what, the 13th or the 14th of February?
Counting that too.
Yeah, it's around that time.
Yeah, like the 14th or the 15th, somewhere around there. I do know that they give themselves an extra 10-day cushion, you know, so it could be 30 days. It's pretty, in my experience with it, if Ripple was going to be denied, they probably would have already been told the grounds of denial. They usually get back pretty quickly on that. They usually only use the 20 or 30 days if they're actually going to get you their information. At least in my experience.
So you mean grounds of denial? In other words, they would say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to give you this?
Yeah, so I don't know all the reasons, but the Freedom of Information Act comes with 8 specific reasons. They could be like national policy, you know, or sometimes they won't give you information if they're in the middle of litigation, in the middle of an investigation. So there's 8 reasons. They'll deny you for that reason. You can appeal it, and you can go through a battle to say that you deserve this information.
Ah, I see.
Yes, so you don't get everything. You can't just get everything that you want. You know, an example is I actually put in a Freedom of Information Act with regards to this lawsuit, because I just wanted to see what I would get. And I asked for all of the information that they used in bringing forward this lawsuit. And I was denied within 3 days. You know, they sent me an email back saying for law enforcement purposes, that was one of their reasons they don't have to provide it to you, and the ongoing investigation, we're not going to provide this documentation to you.
Does that come with a signature of a name?
It probably does. I can
I'm just
find the
curious.
email. Yeah.
I've been paying attention in all of the research I've done as to who was part of the investigative team and who is actually part of the crypto force. And I just
Mhm.
was wondering who that name was because, yeah, well, I've been searching on
Yeah.
them a lot. As an individual, I've been searching on how they investigate, on what other cases they have led,
Mhm.
what their win rate is, quotes that they have said. Some of them
Yeah.
are just really bragatory about when they do win.
Mhm.
They really pump themselves up like, yeah, look at me, look at us, look at what we did, especially when they get a big disgorgement. That seems to be always in the release, is that they are so proud of how much money they brought to the coffers. And
Yeah.
it's money they keep. It's not
That's my
money.
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable to me. So I'm really learning a lot about this agency. So talk about this agency too. And I also want to touch on where Joseph Hall says that truly it should be Congress that is more or less guiding these agencies, right? But Congress isn't doing anything, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And it's something that I've really been focusing on, that everybody's really focusing on, themselves are focused on the SEC. And these kinds of laws, this kind of regulation should 100% come from Congress. And I know Ripple was lobbying Congress, a lot of other blockchain associations, groups, people involved were lobbying Congress to regulate this. And it just hasn't been regulated. I know that the Financial Services Committee did, in the last session, create I forget the name of the group, but I think Warren Davidson was on it. Uh, Soto was on, a few, of the known congressmen and women were on it, but, they had some hearings, but they didn't pass any regulation.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, the SEC, they have a job to do. They've been given guidance in the Securities and Exchange Act, but they've kind of pushed it further than where they should be pushing it. Rather, they should be asking Congress to, this is a new emerging space.
Mm,
Let's set some rules.
mm.
Let's set some guidelines. Tell us how we should enforce these things. If these digital assets are securities, fine, but maybe make new rules for what to do with them, not follow this old Howey test that we created, in 1930, or the court created in 1930,
You-
things like that.
Do you think Gary Gensler is going to lean on Congress more than Clayton did?
I sure hope so. At the very least, what I think, and this is total speculation,
Mhm.
I could be wrong, but what I think that Gary Gensler might try to do is he might try to take a step back from prior actions. I heard Commissioner Peirce, in a few of her, she was part of a couple of networking groups or whatever talks that she was part of. And she kept saying, this is a fresh start. This is a time for a fresh start.
Mm.
And I think Gary Gensler, if he's approved, which I imagine is going to happen soon, he will, potentially try for that fresh start. It could look like something as, settling with Ripple to the point where they say, look, pay us for the past actions. We're not going to decide whether it's a security, but rather we're going to leave this open-ended for Congress to give us, decisions, or maybe we'll start promulgating our own rules. But I really do hope, that he does lean on Congress, because the SEC should realize that they're kind of out of their league right now. They really shouldn't be making these decisions.
So the fact that they are a little bit far reaching in terms of their they're there to protect the Main Street investor, right? But they've kind of taken this police dog mentality, and they're with their enforcements, they seem to have a culture that was more focused on trying to catch people and trying to penalize people. And so maybe, if I can say, maybe Gensler will have a positive shift in the culture and bring them back to their original existence, which is one to provide a healthy, robust market and to protect the retail investor, I hope. So what do you think? We're gonna learn a lot from their response to this, I'm sure. And you
Mhm.
think we should see something if they don't delay somewhere around the 14th or 15th? Do they actually respond on a Sunday? Would they? No, probably not,
Probably
right?
not. And to
Yeah.
be honest, we wouldn't see it
Uh,
unless Ripple decided to show it to us.
I
But
think Ripple's probably trying to be transparent. I'm just guessing. I bet they share it. Don't you
I
think?
think so too. The reason that I think this is this information that they're asking for in this Freedom of Information Act request, they have a whole nother means of getting it, and it's called discovery. And that's through a lawsuit, and they're in the middle of a lawsuit. They're about to have discovery. Discovery is basically where you ask the other side for pieces of information and they give it to you. But usually that's under a seal, at least in these kind of situations where it's private and you can't share that information. But Ripple's gone a step further and done a Freedom of Information Act request, which means that when they get it, it's public knowledge.
Uh-huh.
You know, so it makes me think that they're doing this knowing that they're going to potentially get this information anyway, but they're doing it in a way where they can potentially share it.
Hmm.
And I think it would make sense, if they get information regarding, Ethereum's movement from potential security to not, and then say, hey, look, this is how they decided this. We are the same in all these ways. Why are we being classified this way? It's good for public opinion. It's good for people investing in XRP, even though I don't think that's their primary goal. But I definitely think they're doing this just for the public.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think, have we heard if there's a magistrate judge yet or not? Have we heard that?
Well, so we know there's one suggested, but so the way that it works is the hearing, I think, is the
22nd.
pretrial, or yeah, the 22nd for the conference. By the 15th, Ripple and the SEC have to actually supply an order together, a
Right.
case management order and timeline together. And that's where they'll decide, where they're going, how long discovery is going to take, how long everything's going to take, and who they're going to move forward with,
And
whether the
and it
magistrate.
could be just one person or one side says, no, we don't want a magistrate judge. And then it goes then on to, um, I forgot her name, the judge, Lisa, uh, I forgot.
It's Annalisa Torres, I think.
Annalisa Torres, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then the person who disagrees, we don't necessarily will know who it was who disagreed, because that's all kind of kept hidden behind a veil too, as well, right? It can be like an anonymous, I don't want to go in front of a magistrate. Yeah.
Yeah, what's going to happen is both sides are going to sign an agreed upon order. And if they don't agree on things, they're just going to use the maximum days and, everything that's required. Or they'll go to the judge in the conference and say, hey, judge, we can't agree on anything. Can you do this for us? And unless you attend that call,
Mhm.
which I imagine some people are going to try to do, which I don't think anyone should do.
That was my question too. I mean, the phone number got out with the password, which unless they change it, but why would they have made that public if they didn't want other people to join?
Well, I don't know that they don't want people to join. I mean, technically speaking, if I'm at trial, anybody can walk in and just sit in the back of the courtroom.
So why
But
would you suggest people don't listen in?
so, one thing I'll be honest about is I don't practice in federal court in New York, so I don't know if they have specific requirements, but generally when you call in, they ask everybody their name and their information.
Uh-huh.
And I imagine that people, one of the reasons I suggest people not call in is I imagine people are going to try speaking and doing all these things rather than just listen as a fly on the wall.
Uh,
Um, if you can, I think people probably could listen,
mhm.
but I don't want to, that's not legal advice because I'm not sure about the federal court in New York, but it is public knowledge. I don't see why
Yeah.
people couldn't join, but they probably shouldn't.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, I can try asking people who practice in that court to see what they think, but I imagine most people are gonna say, don't go, don't try to go.
Well, I can imagine that if you try to speak, you're going to be totally disruptive, and that would be beyond unacceptable. It would be wrong. But I guess I felt like, as a person who is a taxpayer, and this is my legal system too as well, even though I don't reside in New York, but but I do contribute still, even though I don't live in the United States, I still file taxes every year. I have a small business. I still pay taxes for the United States. I don't know. I just feel like it's my right to not use the system, but to have free access to the due process of law, I guess. And if I was just going to sit and be quiet and listen, I guess I don't see the downside. And I feel like if they were wanting to keep that hidden and not have people, they would not have made that public.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
that's, but I hear your point. And maybe I'm just a little pushier. I don't know. What
No,
are
yeah, and sorry, I'm just, like I said, I'll follow up with you. I'll ask what some people who actually practice in that court. I can't imagine that you're not allowed. The biggest reason that I tell people no, or I've been saying no, is because I'm afraid that if I say yes, even if you're allowed, thousands of people, not that many people follow me, but on this kind of platform, if I say yes, thousands of people might be on that call, and it could be very disruptive because every time someone calls in, there's a beep, which interrupts whoever's speaking, so it could cause complications.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine they have everybody muted though, because I've been on those earnings calls with MoneyGram, for example, and
Yeah.
there's hundreds of people on those calls, and I'm sure people are dropping in, dropping out, kids crying, dogs barking, and you don't hear anything. And so I would imagine they probably have control as to the amount of background noise that could come through. But anyway, okay, I don't want to get hung up on that.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to listen in. I'm because unless I'm really told that I'm not allowed to, but I think that, yeah, that's just me. Determinations. So what do you think some of these, you had put there that you had some thoughts on what other determinations could have in terms of an effect. What were you trying to get at there?
Are you talking about with regards to the Freedom of Information Act, or?
This was under the kind of the strategy of the letter itself.
Yeah. So yeah, my idea of what their strategy is, it's two-part. The first part is I do think that they're going the public route for a reason, that they want to make this public. I could be wrong about that, but I do think that's why they're going that route, because they would be able to ask for this information in a private sealed discovery way where only they would get it and they couldn't share it. But instead they're asking the public. So I think they want to make it public. But second, I think they're really going to, if this goes to trial, they're seeking information so that they can really compare, side by side XRP to Ether, the good and the bad. For example, Ether had an IPO, XRP didn't. I know the SEC is alleging that they're having a unlimited IPO that's going forever. But anyway, they want the reasoning, because if they can say, look, how come this crypto is good and this crypto is bad? I don't get it. That's the biggest reason they want this information.
But it was just basically Hinman one time making a statement, right? It was never anything official.
Nothing official, yeah. Statements by employees, they mean, they mean something, but they legally don't mean anything. But it sounded like, and ever since he stated it, it's kind of been the position of the SEC in a sense, because they haven't done anything about it. Well, I imagine there are some communications there that they are going to find that could be helpful, but maybe not.
And so what about the fact that Singapore, UK, Japan have defined in their own regulatory way XRP? Is there any sort of, if there is a determination that XRP is a security in the United States, do you think it's going to have any effect on the other countries who have just decided that it's a crypto asset or it's a hybrid or it's a utility coin? What do you think? Does the United States, are they going to be able to change the trajectory for other countries, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, it's hard though, because you can't really have an asset that's looked at as a security in one area, in one country, and then not a security in other countries. It makes it difficult. I mean, the SEC does have, a branch of their agency which deals with international, in a sense, not that they do international litigation or anything, but they work with other countries. Now if there are companies that are based in other countries, but also are based in the US in a sense, they might have an issue using XRP because it's a security here, being afraid that even if they're using it in Japan, there could be some kind of action against that company. I don't think it's going to affect these companies going forward. And I don't think it is affecting any of them right now. I mean, Ripple signing all these contracts, they might not be using XRP, but I feel like they're positioning to use it, and you talk about all the time, like SBI is positioning to use XRP, and I don't think the securities lawsuit is affecting that at all. But I like to look at it in the reverse way. The fact that we have so much clarity elsewhere is really going to be a good argument for Ripple in the case as to why the SEC shouldn't be bringing this lawsuit. And I do think they're going to make that argument. And it could be a winning argument, to be quite honest.
So do you think there's some strong arguments that Ripple has? What is the strongest argument do you think that they have?
Yeah, I think they have three really good arguments, and I'm not saying that they're going to win on any of them. To be quite honest, and I've said this a lot to people, Ripple could lose this lawsuit. They really could. And it's not because I believe XRP is an investment contract. It's because an investment contract is broad. It could really mean a lot of different things. It was never actually defined by Congress. Right. And, when they passed the original law, they didn't define it. They left it up to the SEC, who then, took it to court, basically just regulating by enforcement like they're doing now, and then got the court to give them a test, which they've since, pushed further. But, their best three arguments, to get back on topic, are the due process argument, which basically, so due process and fair notice. They're basically saying that, look, you've been involved since, I don't know, SEC, you've been involved with us since 2014, 2015, whenever, but it was at least 3 or 4 years. And you've never once put us on notice that what we're doing is illegal. We report our sales every quarter. We report it to the public, and we report it to you in a sense, because the SEC is looking closely at those. They put them all in their complaint. But you haven't told, you SEC haven't told us Ripple a single time, what we're doing is wrong. And, due process and fair notice, it requires that a person of ordinary intelligence have a reasonable opportunity to know that what's happening is wrong, and I think there's a good amount of people in, the XRP community with, at the very least, ordinary intelligence. None of them thought it was a security. I don't think it's a security. So I think the due process argument is a strong one. Mm-hmm. The other two, you have that XRP isn't an investment contract because there's no contract. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie and say that I've read every single investment contract lawsuit there's ever been by the SEC, but I can't think of one that I have read that involves a situation where there isn't, privity between the parties. And what I mean by that is a contract between Ripple and me, or a contract between Ripple and all these other people, that actually has promises and things like that. So there is no contract here. It's hard to argue that it's an investment contract. That's a very good argument. Mm-hmm. And the last one is kind of what I was getting at before, where we're talking about the other countries having rules in place for XRP is not a security, what it is, digital currency, whatever they say. And that goes into what's called the major questions doctrine, which Ripple didn't specifically plead, but they don't have to. They've kind of alleged to it in their answer that basically in a situation where an agency is trying to bring an enforcement action, if there's major economic and political significance to that action, then the agency should not be bringing it when the word isn't, when the word isn't defined. And the word that I mean is investment contract. So investment contract was never defined by Congress. So they're trying to say that XRP is an investment contract, but Ripple can say, well, you're overstepping your bounds. You shouldn't be taking that step, because this is a major economic and political significance. First, you're costing a lot of people a lot of money. Second, other countries say all these different things about XRP. Huge political significance there. So Congress should be the one making this decision, and you should just be preempted right away.
Yeah, I think Joseph Hall said that the definition of that contract is so elastic. I think that's the word he used, that it's really impossible to use that definition and actually apply it, especially when we're talking about lines of code in a digital asset world that wasn't even dreamed of at the time that definition was formed. Yeah. And what about the overall feeling that you have in the you talked about on the 4th, you sent me a thing, your overall feeling on the answers from Ripple.
Yeah, I think it's a good answer. Their legal team is extraordinary. If you just look at some of those names and some of the cases that they've handled, I would say that probably one of them bills more in an hour than I bill in a week. And that's not to say that they have ridiculous legal fees. That's to say that they are so much more experienced, and they are just amazing attorneys. And they crafted a good answer, and they crafted it for multiple reasons. Generally speaking, you don't have a preliminary statement in an answer. I don't think I've ever done it. Not that you can't do it, I just haven't. And I think that was done for two reasons. One, because they realize that they're being persecuted by the public. And I do think personally, and this is my opinion, that Ripple loves the XRP community. Not saying that they owe anything to the XRP community, but I think they love them, or at the very least, they care about a lot of the community. They're very involved in it. And they saw a lot of people, turning their backs on Ripple because of this. And so they decided that this was a way to maybe put their story out there. This is what really happened. And also, I think that maybe they realize that they're dealing with a judge who might not know, or might not know much about cryptocurrency and what's going on here. So, they put those facts in there to kind of give the judge a better sense of the kinds of things they're going to argue if it goes to trial or anything like that. But other than that, it's a great answer. Very well written. I couldn't have done anything close to as good as it was.
Yeah, I think the community itself, I don't know if love's the right word, but even though they're not a consumer facing product, when you look at RippleNet itself, there is, though, the community does play into a component of the liquidity. And so to build that liquidity, although I know investment, the institutional investors have such a bigger play and can be much more powerful as a whole, but still, especially in the beginning days of getting the vision off the ground, I mean, the community played a big part in trying to increase the liquidity for XRP. So, yeah, I know that we're just little guys, we're just little Main Street investors, and but you did see what just happened in the event that came up to February 1st. And I just got off a little bit of an hour call with the company Sentiment, and they have the metrics, behavioral metrics, that look at the number of wallets that moved up to take some advantage of that pump that occurred, and the size of those wallets, and how many wallets. As a community, I think you really do have to see collectively as a whole, this community has a lot of power and a lot of, and still can play a big role in that liquidity. And then as more of those projects that are coming to the XRP ledger, that community also is being leveraged to get more use cases for XRP successful. I mean, Flare Networks is just one example. Coil for micropayments is another example. The XRP tip bot is another one. So yeah, I think that yeah, we should really know that we are valuable as collective whole to the overall success of XRP. And that kind of just brings me up to my point on, not that you approve or disapprove of what happened on the first. That's not the point. Point is, though, is do you think it helped or hurt the case at all to show that that kind of price movement could happen without involving anyone from the company?
Yeah, I really don't think it helped or hurt, to be quite honest. I think it just happened, but it doesn't really play that much of a role in whether or not XRP is an investment contract, because, with investment contracts, price could fluctuate without that one driving party. And obviously the SEC is claiming that Ripple is that one driving party. I don't think it has much of an effect. I don't like how it looks for XRP, but that has no bearing on Ripple. And I don't think that they might argue it in the lawsuit, but I think they're more likely to argue that XRP follows Bitcoin. That's the best proof in their mind that they have no control over it. Because if you just look at the charts, in general, obviously up until their lawsuit, where the SEC suing them definitely affected the price, XRP was pretty much following Bitcoin the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely saw that happen after the suit was announced. But you can't dismiss the fact that when the SEC says that XRP is so dependent on the company Ripple, I think that the situation that just occurred on the first proves, no, that's just not the case. It has its own ecosystem. It has its own breathing entity to it that it can definitely move, whether it's just purely on a speculative basis, or it has, this was a speculative base move, not a utility move. But yeah, okay, I just wanted to hear your opinion on that. So why would Ripple want to expedite this trial?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest reason is that, one, they're confident. They are confident they're going to win, and I can 100% tell that in the way that they tweet. And obviously the employees of Ripple are going to tweet very positively. Brad's going to tweet very positively. Stuart, the in-house counsel, is going to tweet very positively. But it's clear that they're very confident. They have a lot of great attorneys. They've dealt with a lot of people who have prior experience with the SEC, who are around for a lot of different rulemaking that happened there. So they're very confident. But more important, I think they realize that they want to get this over with. Whichever way it goes, they need a determination, because being in limbo is literally the worst thing. Not knowing what's going to happen, whether XRP is a security or not, because if it is or if it isn't, they can then do, what they would have to do. If it's a security, they'll register it as they have to. I mean, I imagine they'll appeal it, the lawsuit, but they might register it, or they might, lobby Congress more, or talk to the SEC about passing rules that say, okay, yeah, it's a security, but maybe let's not follow old security rules. Let's make new security rules for this type of security, but I think that just being in limbo is just the worst, so they want to get this done. They've already given everything to the SEC that they have. It's pretty clear in the lawsuit that they've been giving them all their documents for years. So, if they get the SEC to agree, I think they're going to try to make this as fast as possible.
Have you ever seen, because I just don't know enough, that the SEC does take an action of bringing a claim against, but then if the SEC realizes to save face, they know they're not going to win, do they ever just quit halfway through? Say,
yeah.
we're sorry, we made a mistake. Does that ever happen?
I don't know. I'm sure the thing is, you'll never know the internal workings of the SEC. I'm sure it has happened, and then they settled. And because that's the best way to save face, right? If let's say if the SEC, if Gary comes in and himself, Commissioner Pierce and Commissioner Roisman, who I think are the most positive towards crypto, you know, because there's always a majority vote in those situations, and there's 5 of them.
I learned that today listening to Joseph Hall. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the 3 of them decide, hey, look, you know, what we're doing is wrong here, they're not going to say, okay, let's withdraw the lawsuit. Now it's possible, but they're probably going to say, okay, let's call Ripple and let's try to get some money out of this. You know, let's settle for money and walk away saying that it was a security, but we're not going to talk about whether it is now, whether XRP is now. And I think, you know, I'm obviously not Ripple's counsel. I don't work for Ripple, but I think that if the SEC offered them that deal, they would sign in a minute. You know, I really do think they would. And then it's kind of a win for everybody.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious whether or not they're going to try to force the definition to be resolved, because there is, if they settle, they pay a fine, they go back to where they were, there still is that gray area of what does that really mean to not only XRP but to the rest of the ecosystem that has other coins out there like ADA, and you know, there's just so many that could be in that same, you know, ring of fire, if you will, going forward. I mean, Ripple could step out of the ring of fire, but maybe the SEC goes after somebody else because it is still so gray. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm just really wondering if one of the requirements to settle would be that we want to have a definition. I wonder.
Well, yeah, so I don't think that's going to happen. You know, specifically, you're not going to get that from the court. You know, even if they litigate this through, you know, the circuit court, the best you're going to get is the court making a determination about whether the Howey test applies to XRP. You know, they're not going to give you the Ripple test. You know, I know that a lot of people have been saying, at least in my opinion, I think if you want the Ripple test, you need to go to the Supreme Court. And that means that we're looking at maybe a 5, you know, 6-year battle. You know, I think, yeah, and nobody wants that. Nobody wins.
Well,
but I do.
Yeah, I worry about all the missed opportunity with that kind of time.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to happen. But I also think there's a chance that, you know, the commissioners of the SEC realize that they are fighting an all or nothing battle right now. You know, this is a big deal, and they could have gone for an easier target. You know, XRP, it has utility. Nobody can deny that it has at least a minimal amount of utility. You know, I'm not saying it is minimal, but at the very least, everyone can agree there is a minimal amount of utility for XRP. And so that's the issue, is they're now going after an asset that at least has some utility, that, you know, can claim that maybe if it was a security, it's not anymore. So they're either going to get a judge who says, yes, it's a security, and now the SEC can enforce against everything. You know, they're like, well, if it's against XRP, I can go for everything. Or they can lose and find out that XRP is not a security, and then their power is stripped. And if they try to regulate against other cryptocurrencies that are clearly securities, they're going to have a hard time, you know, because they've set really bad case law against themselves. So, you know, it is a kind of an all or nothing situation where you're not going to get that middle ground. And they're setting themselves up for huge success where they can really take charge, but they're also setting themselves up for huge failure where they basically become useless in the cryptocurrency space.
Yeah, they're risking a lot, actually.
Yeah,
which
they really are.
I think is surprising everyone. But I think Joseph Hall reminded us that the reason why he thought it was put through so at the last moment is because that those people who were leaving, that was required because they had the majority of the vote. And if they had not put it through before they left, then, you know, we would have just seen the SEC probably kick the can down the road a little bit longer with
Agreed.
probably,
yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is we won't know until the lawsuit is over how they all voted. You know, right now.
We will know though, huh?
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
know
After a lawsuit.
Individual?
Yeah, you'll know each individual. You can look back now at all prior SEC lawsuits. And if you do, what you'll see is that basically in every cryptocurrency action, Commissioner Peirce voted no.
Where she
Don't do
does the dissent, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And then, you know, Roisman, he's, I think, a 50-50. I haven't calculated them all, but the other three were always voting yes. So I'm pretty certain that, you know, and well, obviously I know that there are at least 3 yeses, and I would imagine that the other 3, you know, including Clayton and Allison Lee, I think is her name, and I don't remember the last person, but they probably all voted yes. Peirce, you know, guess, probably voted no.
mhm,
Roisman, I don't know. You know, it could be a yes, could be a no. I'm
mhm.
hoping for a no because that would really make Gensler
The
the
decision
vote,
maker or
yeah,
the
decision
way
maker. Exactly.
it can tip on
Yeah,
either way.
exactly. Exactly.
Well, from the hours and hours I've watched him at MIT, at least he has a pretty good understanding of the space. And I think what he said in 2018, where he thought at that time that XRP was a security, so much is different now. I mean, this is not 2018. You know, 2021, XRP looks very, very different. So I would imagine that he's got a different opinion now. I'm sure he would have a different opinion now.
Yeah, I can't be confident, but I would imagine the same thing. Actually, you know, in 2018, he was also part of a publication, and I don't remember the details of that, but I can get that for you, with a couple of other people. And, you know, in that publication, they argued that, you know, from my memory, that XRP, you know, it does meet a lot of the Howey tests, but there's also an alternative argument that it doesn't. And that was back in 2018 on a paper or a pamphlet or something that he co-authored.
He
You
co-authored.
know, so at the very least, it's known that in 2018 he realized that there was a counter argument to whether XRP was a security, whether it was an investment contract. And now, like you said, it's 3 years later. You know, a lot has changed. There's more people building on the XRP ledger than there ever was before. There's a lot more use cases than there ever was before. So I feel confident that at the very least, he would believe that maybe it's not anymore, you know, and really that's all that matters for anyone who holds XRP. If you think about it, who cares if it was in the beginning? All that matters is right now, is it a security?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that the only other thing was, if it is a security, will it affect the US versus the world? I think we pretty much touched on it, but is there anything else you want to say? I mean, if it is deemed a security, how do you think that is going to affect ODL?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen in the US. You know, if it's deemed a security, the SEC can pretty much decide who can hold it and who can't hold it. You know, I would imagine that regular individuals won't be able to, you know, it makes it pretty much worthless in the US, in my opinion. You know,
So they don't buy it, but they don't buy it back from the XRP holders, or I mean, what do they do with it, with people who are the Main Street investors that have a lot of XRP and it becomes a security? What happens? It just becomes worthless, you're saying?
Well, I can't say that it's going to become worthless because I would imagine that somewhere else it's going to have worth, right? And anybody in the US, you know, right now, if you have I always pronounce it wrong, but Zum, you know, Wheats's wallet, XUMM, if you have that, you pretty much have access to the ledger, you know, and you can trade, you know, off the XRP ledger for you know, a variety of other assets. So I think there's always going to be a way for me personally to sell my XRP,
I
you
follow.
know, but I just don't think it's going to be useful in the US until new, sorry, my cat is going crazy, until new regulations are passed, you know, specifically by Congress, but I don't think it'll affect the world.
I see your point.
Yeah, I
But you
just
know,
think
you have
they'll
some
avoid it.
people saying that there's going to be, I don't share this, but I know some people think there's going to be some sort of buyback situation. Do you have any opinion on that?
From Ripple, like Ripple buying back.
Yeah, I think that's those people seem to put that out there as a possibility. Do you believe that?
No, and I imagine that probably has to do with when the U.S. left the gold standard, or something to do with, I forget what it was, but they basically made everybody sell their gold or something like that. I
In
don't know.
71, when
Yeah,
Nixon decided to go off the gold standard, yeah, it was basically confiscated, you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
No, I
why,
mean,
yeah, that's
go ahead.
why the holding the gold in the physical form through coins is probably one of the safer ways to go should should that ever come about again.
Yeah. So I don't see there being any kind of buyback. I mean, I guess if the SEC wins the lawsuit, they can order that Ripple pay, people back for their investments, but I can only imagine that would be the people who bought directly from Ripple, which is even
Right,
more, which is even more proof that how can XRP be a security any longer? If Ripple won't owe me any money, then why am I holding an investment contract with them? So unless if the court somehow decides that, oh, we're going to make Ripple pay everybody for every XRP purchase that they made, whether they bought it for $10 or 15 cents, which is, I can't see that ever happening. I think that those conspiracy theories, they're not grounded. I don't think anybody wants you out of XRP. I don't think anyone's going to force your XRP from you. But, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
Yeah, I don't believe it would happen either, but again, I agree with you. We don't know. Anything can happen. Expect the unexpected always is what I have been saying in this space. So let's see,
Yeah.
I'm going through, is there anything we didn't talk about? The last minute action, Gary Gensler. I'm not sure what I was getting at that. Can you think in terms of all the questions that we kind of looked at before you and I got together at this moment? Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to be sure to cover?
Well, yeah, I think maybe a little bit about, what Joseph Hall said. I had some favorite moments that
Yes,
I
please
really do
share.
want to say. Because those favorite moments aren't actually, the arguments for why XRP isn't a security. It was kind of the shutting down of some of the crazy conspiracy theories that you see. One theory that I've been seeing all over the place is that, the original complaint did not try to find that XRP is a security today. And Joseph Hall said, it's true that in the complaint, while it's not actually one of the reliefs sought, it is pled, that XRP is still currently a security, and they don't need to plead that. They don't need to seek that in the relief section for them to still be saying that it's a security today. So I like that he clarified that, because coming from me, a non-securities lawyer who just dabbles in it, it doesn't mean anything. But coming from him, someone who worked at the SEC,
Right.
it means a great deal. Because we can get rid of that theory that, oh, they're just going after it back then. No, they're trying to say XRP is a security, now, then, going forward.
Got it. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
That was one thing. And another thing that I really liked was, and he used the Star Wars analogy when he said that, with Jay Clayton leaving, this wasn't an Empire Strikes Back moment. This wasn't like I'm gonna sue Ripple and because I hate them, or Brad Garlinghouse, sent a love letter to my wife. That's not what happened there. It was calculated. They have extensive teams at the SEC that do a lot of research, and for whatever reason, one or multiple of the commissioners, whether it be the chairman at the time, Jay Clayton, or the others, they had their internal teams. As you heard, Joseph Hall served on one of the prior, I think, chairman's teams or commissioners' teams.
I think the chairman.
Yeah. And they had their team look into it and make a case that they presented to the other commissioners. And based on that, like we said before, there was a vote, and at least 3 of the 5 voted on it. This wasn't a last minute, I hate you moment.
Mm-hmm.
At least 2 of the people who voted yes are still there.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people, there's a lot of turnover, and that's because there's a turnover from administrations, from Trump to Biden.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, I think it's pretty clear that this wasn't one of those kind of Empire Strikes Back moments. And I think that I would love to stop seeing that being talked about, because it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I'm positive that this is gonna go some a positive direction. Obviously, you know, the one thing that I have to say that I should have said at the beginning is that nothing that I said today was legal advice. I am an attorney, but I'm not anybody else's attorney. You know, I'm not giving legal advice here. I'm not a securities lawyer. You know, I do research securities law a lot. I do some blockchain law in a sense, but this isn't my area of expertise. And a lot of this is just my opinion based on, you know, practicing law and doing a lot of research.
Yeah, well, I think a majority of people know that from following you on Twitter and also doing their own research with looking at your business website. They can see the area that you practice, and so, but it always helps because there's new people coming in all the time into this space. So I hope that they can craft a solution, and I hope that solution comes soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciate that you took the time. I think it really helps everybody, everybody who is holding XRP to just kind of process all of the developments that occur and have occurred and will occur in the future. So I would love to have you back on again after we see some development, and keep up your tweets, because I think people are enjoying having your, you know, it would be interesting. There's also some, I'm just totally talking out loud. I'm gonna probably put myself in a bad position, but I just, there's Jeremy out there chiming in a lot. So we have Jeremy, we have Jesse, and then there's another attorney that seems to be making comments a lot. His last name, Filan, I think is Filan is his last name. I forget his first name. He's been making comments on your juice, but you know what might be fun, and this is probably just a shout out without giving it much thought, but it would really be fun to have all three of you on at the same time to discuss a next new development, you know, because I think all three of you are following this so closely, and to have the three of you on the same panel to talk would be, I think, really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think it's James. I don't know if it's Philon or Philin.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it would be interesting for the three of us. I don't know how everyone else feels about hearing
Yeah,
attorneys talk.
I just, it
but
came to the top of my head, and they're probably gonna go, oh my God, no, I can't do this, that's horrible. But I'm gonna throw it out there. I think it would be a good, I think it'd be incredibly informative for everybody, you know, after we see a next new major development. I'll send a little DM and see if everybody's up for that, and we'll see if we can pull that off. If you're okay with that, I think
I'm okay with it. And I know that James, I mean, I don't know if he's okay with it, but he's brilliant.
Is
so
he? Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy, I'm not sure who that is, but I probably know, but I don't know off the top of my head. But James is brilliant, and I would say that he probably knows a lot more than I do. So he would be a great person to have.
You know, and everyone knows so much more than I do, but when you get the three brains together, you know, all of your three brains together, that's going to make a very big brain. So I think that, I know it's really simple terms, but it's true, you know, better two minds than one. It's always, and if we get three, wow, bonus, we've got a big brain. I think I think I'll send them a message and see if they're up for it. But thank you so much. Yeah, we have gone on for probably enough time that people feel like, okay, this is good for now. And then we just keep watching, and we keep looking forward to your comments. And yeah, Jesse, I really appreciate it. I know everybody's, and maybe John Deaton. My gosh, right? So we've got John, Mr.
All J's.
James, yeah, John, James, Jeremy, and Jesse. Oh my gosh, what is that? The 4 J's.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but
yeah. Okay, well, I'm gonna get to work. I'm gonna see if those 3 other guys are up for it. That should be really fun for me, And I think it would be very, very interesting for everybody. So let's see if we can pull that off.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And this was fun.
Yeah. On a side note, because I have cats, you know, you said your cat was doing something. What kind of cat do you have?
So we have, let me see if I can grab her. We have 2 kittens.
Uh-huh.
But here's one of them.
Oh, she's big. She's like what, 9, 10 months?
Yeah, about 10 months now.
Uh-huh.
And
So
then
is
my
she,
wife is actually bringing over the other one.
oh, great. Is she like an American tabby or?
I
Look at
think
those,
so, yeah.
and that's a
So,
calico.
yeah, this is a calico. So
Are they
the one that I
related?
held up, what'd you say?
Are they related?
No. So the one that I held up first, she was actually abandoned in our backyard. She
Mm,
was a week old. And
you had a bottle feeder.
yeah. We had to bottle feed her and stimulate her to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So that was a ton of fun. But yeah, so we had her for a while, but I know that cats are generally loners, but she was lonely, you know, she was really lonely. So then we got the other one, about a month ago.
To be a buddy.
Yeah, and it was rough for a while actually, but they're good now.
Territory business.
Yeah, it was really the new one. The Evie, that's and she's named after the Pokemon, the one that I held up first.
Yeah. That's a good name.
Yeah, she's very skittish, so she would just run and hide. But the new one, Rebecca, that's the name she came with. She just chases her around and was eating her food and sitting outside the litter box, you know, when she was trying to go. So just being very dominant, territorial. But you know, we had to kind of wean them together, and we did that through food the best way.
Yeah, that happens. You know, cats are pretty territorial animals, so it can be a battle. And there's also definite pecking order in cats. You know,
Yeah.
I'm the bully.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, that was everybody's fluff for the day. All right, Dizzy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.